What's up, folks? Doing another little best ball draft here. Doing the big board and got all the rookies in this draft. Well, not all the rookies, but majority of the rookies available in this draft. Looks like we got pick number 4, so kind of hoping to get my first Cooper Cup share, but I doubt that happens. So might be having to pick between Henry, Eckler, Jamar Chase, which doesn't make me too happy. I really, really hate being in this like 4 or 5 range. I've gotten like multiple shares of Eckler lately, so I'm definitely not going to take him. So I might just like reach on Jamar Chase. He's a guy I'm like fine being overweight on this year. I would assume that this is Cooper Cup. I have actually seen some drafts where like the 4 ends up being one of the top 3 guys, and then you're like super excited to be 4. But I just haven't gotten that lucky yet. Whenever I've been in the 4 or 5 slot, I've been having to pick between Derrick Henry and Austin Eckler. I already have like enough Eckler for now. I have some Derrick Henry too. I'm just going to take Jamar Chase. It's pretty unfortunate. I'd rather just be picking a spot or 2 later. It's funny, the guy after me also was like, fuck that, I'm taking Justin Jefferson. I don't want those running backs either. So I'm absolutely fine with Eckler and Derrick Henry. I don't particularly like dislike them, but they're guys I already have. Like, I know I have 2 shares of Eckler already, and I've only done 13 drafts. This is my 14th, so I don't need another share of Eckler. Like, he's not a guy I'm looking to be over the field on. I would like to be at the field and maybe even slightly below the field because of his price. I also think there's a good chance the Chargers draft another running back in this draft that's coming up. I don't think that person would be like a real threat to Austin Eckler, where it'd be like, oh, he's losing significant touches. But I mean, even a complimentary back would hurt him a bit, especially if it's a guy that's decent at goal line and might replace him in that role. So, Derrick Henry, I only have 1 share of so far in my like 13 drafts, but I'd rather take another share if he falls like later in the round or something to have like a more unique type build. My last draft before this one, I was able to get the whole Kansas City crew, so I got Tyreek and Kelsey and Mahomes as my first 3 picks. It was pretty cool. Then I was able to pick up Breece Hall in round 6, and then like Kenny Walker in round 9 or 8. So like these rookies are still just insane values, and like my teams have tended to be a little rookie heavy right now, but it's just like you're just never going to see these prices again. These prices are just long gone the moment the NFL draft happens. So this is basically like the only contest that you're ever going to get a huge discount on the rookies. So like it's not really rookie fever as much as it's just like I want to take advantage of this time where these players happen to just be cheaper than they're ever going to be again. Because almost every rookie, like even regardless of its bad landing spots or whatever, is going to go up in value, or at least up in ADP after the NFL draft, just because people are going to find reasons to get excited about landing spots and things like that. There might be 1 or 2 that go down, but I mean, even a guy like where Kenny Walker's being drafted, even if he was to be drafted as like a backup, he'd probably be a fine pick in like round 9 because he'd be like a top end handcuff, you know. I don't think he's going to be a handcuff because I think he'll just get drafted into a starting role or like a 1A, 1B role. But I mean, the downside of these guys' prices is basically you're kind of like paying for their floors, and their ceilings are to like go so much higher. So I really think the rookies are some of the best values in these drafts right now. Especially guys like Tyler Algier and James Ford and Damian Pierce and guys like that you can get in the last couple rounds. Because if they like land any sort of decent landing spot, I mean, it wouldn't shock me for one of those guys to end up being going in round 9 or 10 or 11, you know? And it wouldn't surprise me if like the other two were pushed up to around like 14 or so, something like that. I think we're just going to take CD Lamb here. Don't really want Chubb. I'm fine with Andrews, but I have like a bunch of Andrews. Actually, ending up with quite a bit of CD Lamb. I'm pretty happy to start with Jamar and CD Lamb. Nick Chubb doesn't interest me a ton. I know Kareem Hunt's a free agent, but we saw that they just like the two running back system. And like they've even been using the other running backs that aren't Kareem Hunt near the goal line some, so that's just fucking disgusting. I do think there's just so many teams this year that are in the market for running backs. That's why I'm taking so many shots on these later running backs, the rookies, just because like there's just so many places. Like the Jets, the Bills, Miami, Cleveland, Houston. Who else we got? The Chiefs, the Chargers. Like all these teams can be looking to add to their running back rooms, you know? And there's just a lot of good opportunity out there right now for running backs. I've been finding like I really like the value of running backs in these drafts because of what's going on right now in like the ecosystem. So right here I'm looking at Barkley, Gibson, Waddle, and Pitts. Those are kind of my favorite guys that are on the board at the moment. I'm really starting to try to push running backs because I feel like we're getting the best extra value on running backs rookies as opposed to wide receiver rookies. The wide receiver rookies are a little closer right now in ADP to what I think that they will be after the NFL draft. I think they're still a little cheaper, especially a couple of specific ones, but I think they're closer. Like, I think they're rookie running backs. I mean, Breece Hall is finally starting to creep up now. Like, he's pretty much going in round 6 now, whereas, like, you could get him in 7 before. And, like, I think he's even went 5 in a few of these. But, like, Kenny Walker and Isaiah Spiller and the guy from Notre Dame, who I'm forgetting his name right now, are all they're all going like way later than what they're going to go after the NFL draft. Pretty good values on Akers and Gibson for those players that just got to take them. It's happy to grab up Pitts. Chase Lamb and Pitts is a nice start. So I've definitely like started a lot of teams with 2 RBs, 1 RB, 1 wide receiver, 2 wide receivers, pretty much like all the sort of mixes. I think this year just like trying to build some unique builds like so that your teams aren't all starting off the same way. Although like I must have a lot of CD Lamb right now. Like I've been taking him a ton. I'm definitely overweight on both Jamar Chase and CD Lamb, but I mean I've only done 14 drafts, so that makes sense. I also have like Pitts and Andrews on a ton of teams. I like Dallas Goedert a lot if you missed those guys. I drafted Kelsey on the one team, but that was only because I was trying for the KC super stack and we got that going. I think Kelsey's a little bit too overpriced, but if you have draft Tyreek in round 1, I don't mind taking a shot on Kelsey and building out that Chiefs stack in case Mahomes goes nuclear again. Which, you know, you might never see another season like his 50 touchdown season, but you might. Who knows? Kind of feel like Zeke is pretty much being valued as if his floor was his ceiling and that his ceiling doesn't even actually exist. Like, what did he have last year for points? 228. That feels like, 230 feels around like his sort of like floor, which is like, better than the best season David Montgomery's ever had. We don't really know about Dobbins. Probably is a better bet than Aaron Jones, who's also like losing work. And Aaron Jones is like legitimately losing work, whereas Zeke is kind of like fake losing work. like Zeke lost work at the end of the year, but he like obviously wasn't healthy either. And at the beginning of the year, when he was healthy, he was quite good. Did not seem like he was going to lose work then. Some people I think that are being valued as if their floors don't exist are Elijah Mitchell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Javonte Williams. And all are guys that I have like mixed level of interest in all of them. None of them are fades for me, but I wouldn't really want to be above the field on any of those three players at their current ADPs. Because like they all have like fairly large downsides. And basically like they're drafted, just people kind of pretend like their downsides don't exist, like they're just not a thing. Pretty disappointed to see Zeke go there before us. So between Elijah Mitchell, Travis Etienne, or we could push it another round on a running back. I'm not thrilled about this. I'm going to just take Amari Cooper. So took Amari Cooper because we have CeeDee Lamb and we could kind of set up a Dak stack a little bit later on. I actually have a couple Dak, CeeDee Lamb, Coopers already, but I mean, there's no guarantee Amari Cooper's even on the Cowboys with the way things ended last year. Jerry Jones was like furious about him being unvaccinated and missing time, so I wouldn't project that he'll be gone. I think he's definitely more likely to be in Dallas than not be in Dallas, but I don't think it's a guarantee either. So looks like we've pushed RB to round 5. I mean, we could even push to round 6. I'm like super, super high on Breece Hall, so I wouldn't hate picking him in the middle of round 5 if that's what happens. If we get kind of closed off on Mitchell and Etienne and Jacobs, which doesn't look like we will. No, we're guaranteed to have one of those guys available. Now it's just kind of a matter of do I want to take Hall over one of those three? I'm not super sure. I think Amon-Ra and Mike Thomas are like also pretty interesting here. Like I said, Elijah Mitchell is still like they only have 2 running backs on the roster for next year and under contract for next year. And like, who's to say the next person they bring in doesn't beat him out? Like Shanahan has proven, like he'll just go with whoever. Like he'll go with whoever plays the best. So might really kick the can on running back another round. St. Brown, that's probably going to take him. Now it's kind of between Mike Thomas or a running back. I think I'd rather take a running back. I've been taking a bit of Mike Thomas, and he worries me a bit. So we're between Mitchell and Etienne. I think Etienne's going to keep going up and become harder and harder to get, so I'm going to take him. I do think he has a little bit more upside than Mitchell, but I mean that's hard. It's hard to tell because Mitchell's definitely on a better team. See, we saw Breece Hall go the next pick after Etienne. He's really been like creeping up. Now we're starting to get like to the prices where I'm not super thrilled to be drafting Breece Hall, but when he was in round 6 and 7, I was just smashing away. Honestly, don't think Kenneth Walker should be like very far behind Breece Hall, and he is right now very, very far behind Breece Hall. Spiller is the one of the 3 rookies where like I don't really like him enough to like. I'm not super excited to draft Isaiah Spiller, but like I'm fine with him at his current price. But I don't feel like I'm getting this like absolute steal like I do with like I did with Breece Hall when he was going a bit later, and still feel like with Kenny Walker. So we got to kind of have our eye on Joe Burrow here if we would like to stack him with Chase, and he goes immediately off the board once you say that, so that's not happening. Oh, we're still 11 picks away. Forget how long it can be between these picks. So we could definitely take Dak when it's our pick if he's on the board. That's pretty reasonable. I really like having like an anchor at every position. I don't like. I mean, I still consider like ETN a good enough player to be like where his ceiling is high enough as your number one running back. That's fine, but I don't particularly like punting any position. Most of like the league winning type lineups I saw last year, most of my own lineups, I studied my own lineups a lot. The ones that did well and the ones that did bad. And like my lineups where every single position was solid were just like incredible, like the winning percentage on those. Whereas some of the ones where I punted certain positions did not go as well, specifically tight end. Like punting tight end seemed like it was very, very terrible last year. If your best tight end was somebody drafted after Noah Fant last year, you were pretty much not winning any tournaments. Maybe it's because, guys like Dalton Schultz weren't even drafted in some drafts and things like that. Freiermuth wasn't drafted in a lot of drafts, but I don't know, it seemed like tight end was a key position to have a really good player at. And like punting quarterback seemed like it was awesome at the beginning of the year. So I had a lot of teams that had like Daniel Jones, Derek Carr, and then like some other rando like Darnold or Wentz or Mac Jones. And like those teams started off like houses of fire. I was winning so many of my leagues. But then kind of when Daniel Jones and Carr, they both sort of shorted out at the same time, then those teams stopped winning abruptly. I'm not super excited about the running backs on the board. Do you think Leonard Fournette is like undervalued? Like, he's probably going to end up on a team where he's got a pretty decent role right away, right? Kind of looking at Ayuk, Dallas Goedert, or Dak. I know I already have a tight end, but I don't mind just taking two and then being done. I suppose since I have the Dallas guys, I'll just take Dak here. Seems cool. Like, I would take Kenneth Walker over all the running backs that are in this round, basically. Like, I'd rather have him than Damian Harris. I'd rather have him than Michael Carter. I'd rather have him than David Singletary. I'd rather have him than Leonard Fournette. So I imagine I'm going to end up with like 80% Kenneth Walker in these early contests. But I'll probably end up not with a ton of him after the rookie draft when I think he'll shoot up. I think there's a decent chance he's the first running back drafted in the actual NFL draft. But I do like Breece Hall quite a bit more. I think Breece Hall is actually like special, and he's my 101 for dynasty rookie drafts this year, even Superflex. Like, I don't like any of these quarterbacks enough, so I do get the Burks hype, and I love the Burks hype myself. But like, what you see on tape with Breece Hall is just, I can't not take that guy 101. I mean, obviously he falls into some like horrendous situation, then yeah, maybe. But looking like I'm going to like the wide receivers on the board a lot more than any other position at the moment. I would definitely, as much as I'm talking up Kenneth Walker, I would rather wait around. And we're definitely not going to get him, I guess, if we wait around because of how many picks there are after us. So that's a consideration. Well, I'm going to take Ayuk here because I have basically not gotten any Ayuk that when he's fallen. He just hasn't fallen much in these drafts. So I have gotten like one or two Ayuks, but they were when I either overpaid or paid ADP for him. So getting like a half round discount feels pretty good on one. If we miss Walker, it's okay. It's fine. I have tons and tons of Walker. So if we miss Walker, I might take a shot on Spiller next round, unless we miss Spiller too, but whatever. We will make do at running back. Like I said, I don't think as long as I've done best ball that there's been as many opportunities open at running back as there are this year. we went through a bunch of AFC teams where there's opportunities. The Giants are talking about moving away from Barkley. That could open up an opportunity. You've got Atlanta, which has open opportunity. The Saints are going to bring in somebody to play with Kamara, and then Kamara might miss, up to 6 games with suspension. I think that, like, even if Kamara didn't miss time, that, like, a later round rookie running back that could play the old Mark Ingram role would be good. Anyway, we've got Tampa, who currently is like Keyshawn Vaughn on the roster. So they could be a spot. We got Seattle, if they don't bring back Penny, they could be a spot. So even though there are, like, 5 pretty good starting running backs out there in free agency, there's still like 15 or 16 slots to be filled. And there's really only like 3 rookie running backs where you kind of can slot them into these spots. So some other guys are going to fall into these opportunities. One of the guys I like to fall into one of the opportunities is Jerome Ford. The main reason for this is because the NFL overvalues speed by quite a bit. And while Jerome Ford may not be the most exciting prospect, dude is going to run a 4.3 something, which will probably be the fastest of any running back, at least for sure the fastest of any running back that's not like a specialty type back. And he can play all 3 downs. And he's not super shifty, and he doesn't really like super wow you. He just kind of like, if there's an open hole, then he hits the hole and goes for a long time. But that's good enough for me. Players of interest to me right now, I'm a little hesitant on Allen Robinson. Love Drake London. Looking at London, Spiller, Kenneth Walker, Chase Claypool. Could take a shot on CEH. That's pretty much like off my board. So that's not one we're looking to do. I'm not sure what this is. Anyway, so it looks like we'll have a shot at Walker or London or Spiller. The last time this came up, I took London because I wanted to push the envelope on Walker because he really, really falls in some of these. I think given my current situation with my wide receivers, I'm just going to take Walker here. So another few of the rookies I really like that you can get kind of a little later on, I think, are the wide receivers that have a chance to really, really fly up the boards are Chris Olave and Jahan Dotson. And I think that they might go to like pretty good teams and good team situations. And you're not having to pay the premium price like you are for London and Burks and Wilson. But I don't really think those guys are that far behind. Oh, wow. Pretty excited about what's going on the board right now. Nice. Well, we're going to be taking another rookie here. So we were either going to be taking Drake London or Spiller. And we wind up with Spiller. Like I said, Spiller is my RB3, so it's not like I dislike him or anything, but he does not excite me as much as Walker or Breece Hall. I just don't think he's as good overall of a player as Breece Hall, and I don't think he's as explosive as Kenneth Walker. I don't think he has like any specific things he does really, really well. But like he's pretty well rounded and he can do everything, and he is large. So pretty excited to get him as an RB3 on this team, especially when we already have 4 wide receivers we like. We got a quarterback and a tight ends. Team's looking pretty nice to me. So yeah, like I was saying, we're going rookie heavy in a lot of these drafts, but I just don't suspect that you're ever going to be able to create a team that looks like this after the NFL draft. It seems impossible. There's just no way that Kenneth Walker and Spiller don't move up. Just having any team attached to their name outside of, a couple horrific landing spots, which they could land in, but it's fine. You don't just bring down your portfolio percentage at that point by just not drafting them. Because they'll probably be going in this range even if they wind up in terrible spots. Seven picks away. Rondell Moore, absolutely not. The tight ends on the board kind of look a bit better to me than anything else, but I don't think that Fant will be there when we pick. I do like Ramondre a good amount, but I don't really expect that he'll still be there when we pick. Nope, he won't be. Melvin Gordon off the board too. I kind of thought he would be an option for us. Kind of interested to see what happens with Gesicki. If he ends up on a different team that's going to use him more, he could have a really nice season. I do think having Dak and Pitts, we're open to just drafting 2 quarterbacks or just drafting 2 tight ends, which is nice. But when I only draft 2, it's because the second guy I feel pretty comfortable with. So I drafted the Mahomes, the Chiefs team, with Kelsey, and I actually ended up taking 3 quarterbacks and 3 tight ends, which I think people would probably be like, why are you doing that if you took those top guys? Well, it's because my number 2s were just sketchy guys. I had Winston, who's not even on a team and is coming back from the ACL, but I love his upside. I think we'll just take Jacoby Myers here. Don't really like him that much, but whatever. This guy I haven't taken really at all, so I've mostly been taking Galladay when that pick comes up in that range. Oh, Kyron Williams is the guy I was trying to think of earlier from Notre Dame. So I'm really kind of trying to keep away from 4 running back builds at the time, just because, I was saying, the value at the end of these drafts sort of require you to be taking running backs. In the last 2 rounds are just better darts than the wide receiver darts that are available down there. And I think it's kind of more important that you're throwing a good dart than a position. Than a position specific dart at the end. So if you have 9 wide receivers and wide receiver isn't the best dart on the board, then you don't need to just draft another one. Even if you have 2 decent quarterbacks, you can draft another quarterback. If you have 2 decent tight ends, you can draft another tight end. You can put that spot into a 6 running back. I think people are a little bit drunk and obsessed with having a little bit too many wide receivers at the moment. And I do like wide receivers as well, but I'm a little more open-minded to what we can do with those last round picks. Kind of got my eye on Hunter Henry here to go along with Jacoby and then maybe pick up Mac Jones later. Mac Jones I do not like much for fantasy, therefore I have 0 Mac Jones so far. So makes sense if I'm going to have my first team with Jacoby Myers that we get one of our rare New England stacks that we aren't guaranteed to get, obviously, because I'm not going to reach on Mac Jones, but I'm open to taking some Mac Jones. I think now that we have Henry and Pitts, we can like Henry is definitely a good enough second tight end that I am comfortable doing that. Just going. We got two, good to go. They have the same bye week. That sucks, but you can definitely weather a 0 or 2 during the season. Not that big a deal. I did notice the people that went a little too heavy on the week 7 bye weeks last year certainly paid the price that week. That was so I kind of like looked at my advance rate each week just to kind of see how things were going. And week 7, just because I kind of pay a little bit more attention to it, I'm like definitely not a part of bye week Twitter that freaks out about them, but I also am cognizant that bye weeks are important to some degree. They're not zero importance. So I saw a huge jump in my advance percentage the week of week 7. Because like a lot of the other grinders that just like make fun of bye weeks took kind of a beating that week. Like taking a 0 really isn't that big of a deal, but like finishing last in a week does hurt you quite a bit. Like if you're just your whole team is just like. I guess probably not going to take Mac Jones next round. That's for sure. So. It's interesting because quarterbacks seem to just like go so much higher this year than they were going last year. They almost go in underdog like they were going in the DraftKings drafts last year. And if you went and actually looked at how valuable players were compared to making the big money, quarterbacks were more valuable than we were drafting them at. I think like Josh Allen ended up being the like 7th most important player to have on your team. And, obviously wasn't going in the top 7 players. Like, people make fun of people that are drafting Josh Allen now for drafting him where he's getting picked at. So, said we weren't going to reach for Mac Jones, but if we don't like anything that's on the board, we might just take him and then decide on our other position the next round. Like Dotson quite a bit. Interesting. Our picks will be a little closer together this time. We're not going to have our long wait, so. QB is definitely getting hammered, and the guy behind us has none. I definitely think of this group of wide receivers that are available right now, there's like 4 or 5 people that I feel about the same about. So yeah, let's go ahead then and just take our Mac Jones. I think, with Mac Jones and Dak, we can kind of click off quarterback as well now. He doesn't really have, the kind of upside where if Dak were to suffer like a serious long-term injury, we'd just be fucked, because I don't think Mac Jones can hold the boat. But the thing is, we got Lamb and Cooper, so if Dak gets a serious long-term injury, this team's just pretty much in the shitter regardless. So I think I'll just go like with a bunch of extra darts at running back / wide receiver. I like Rashid White a bit as a running back rookie. I don't really understand why he's priced so much more expensive than like some other similar guys. I think it's the size thing. He is like larger than some other guys that do similar things to him. So I don't really mind like Visca, Harden, KJ Osborne, Marv Jones, Dotson. Dotson is definitely my favorite player on the board. I think he has a really, really high ceiling. Wouldn't surprise me if he was to finish as in the top 3 rookie wide receivers for points this season. Dude does everything well and has wheels. So that's who I got my eye on. Again, another rookie, but I just think that you put Dotson on like the Chargers, you're not getting Dotson in round 13. And I think he has just like a much higher ceiling than any of these players that are on the board. And like Marvin Jones, probably if he was to have some sort of like renaissance younger season with T-Law, could maybe rival him for ceiling, but we'll take Dotson here. Pretty thrilled with this team so far. Definitely going to want to try to at least mix in one other running back, because I think I'm at minimum going to go with 5 in this build. Only having 2 quarterbacks and only drafting 2 tight ends, there's no reason to go to draft only 4 running backs, I think. You really need like some amount of darts in multiple positions. Like, I don't really like drafting like 11 wide receivers or more. I think like kind of 10 is my cap. Especially if you took a decent amount of them like early. Like when you took Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Cooper, as high as we took them, if wide receiver 11 is getting in your lineup, you're probably in deep shit. I mean, I guess there's flex, but if they're getting in your lineup with any sort of consistency, that means things have went badly for you. 12 picks away is a ways. So who are some veteran running backs I have my eye on? I like Khalil Herbert. He did really well when he was filling in last year. I mean, there's always Darrell Henderson. I think Sony's got a shot at finding one of these spots. Like, I could see him going to, the Jets or Buffalo or something and ending up in a share and being, like, very, very useful. I'm not really understanding why Cole Beasley goes as late as he does. So, like, I get that Buffalo could save money from moving on from him, but they're already going to be moving on from Emmanuel Sanders, right? So, do they really want to cut, like, another guy? And then people are kind of excited for Isaiah Mckenzie, but the most yards this dude's had in a season is like 280 yards. He's had, like, one big game in his career. I just don't know if the Bills are really going to be like looking to save money at the wide receiver position. If the vaccination stuff comes into play in that, I could see them moving on from Beasley because of those sort of factors, but I don't think it's going to be to save a few bucks. I think he has like back-to-back seasons of 80 catches, so. And I also think if Beasley gets cut, like he's not going to have a problem getting another job. Somebody's going to be going after him. Chris Carson, I just don't see it. I think the neck injury is too severe. He's a guy I'm perfectly fine just eating poop if he ends up being awesome. It's getting pretty thin at wide receiver. I think I could definitely get Beasley in the next round. I don't mind Nico or Tim Patrick, but right now I have kind of my eye on Khalil Herbert. Cedric Wilson had a nice end of the year for the Cowboys, but it's free agent. Kind of have no clue what sort of situation he'll end up in. Cool. All right, let's take Khalil Herbert. I think he's like a top-end handcuff in the old, Darrell Henderson, Tony Pollard, Madison type range. But it doesn't really cost as much as those guys, although I think Henderson's even cheaper this year. I find that one slightly confusing because Henderson was an RB1 for half the year this year. And I don't know. I don't know if people are really worried that Sony Michel will be back because that just doesn't seem like it's a possible thing. Still kind of can't believe that Isaiah Mckenzie is going before Cole Beasley. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I do think if he gets this huge uptick in opportunity that he can do well with it, that's for sure. I just would rather take that dart or that bet later than a guy like Beasley that I feel like is going to be fairly locked into some decent volume, even if he were to switch teams. I think we can just wait to take another running back until the last couple rounds. So take another one of the rookies that has a high upside, like an Algier or Jerome Ford or Damian Pierce or one of those guys. So Algier is a guy that could end up crazy in drafts. He might get, if he walks into a spot where he's gonna look like he has a chance to start, he might get the fucking Antonio Gibson steam from a couple years back. Let's take Callaway here. It's a big play guy. I don't think losing, opportunities to Michael Thomas is that big a deal. Still think he can be fairly useful. Really like Winston. I definitely think he's going to wind up a starter, and then he was kind of tearing it up last year before he got hurt. I think Terrace Marshall's a pretty interesting one because I think Robbie Anderson is so awful, but also, man, did he do nothing in his rookie year. It seemed like the coaching staff was just out. I would like to get him, but I really liked how Berrios ended last year. All I hear about is Jets adding weapons and Jets adding weapons and Jets adding weapons. So that does concern me a bit for Berrios. I feel like he sort of earned that slot role, but if they add a guy on the outside that pushes Elijah Moore inside, and then Braxton Berrios is hosed. So I don't mind taking some shots on him, but I would like to keep him in the lower percentage. Juan Dell is a guy I don't really care for fantasy, but because so many other people are high on him, I don't mind. I don't mind hoping I'm wrong and taking a shot. He seems like a Debo Visca type guy that's really going to have to be scheme specific touches, like Rondell Moore too, and I don't know. I just don't think he's big enough and fast enough and good enough to be successful at the next level. But I'm definitely wrong a good amount of time, and I'm the first one to admit that. So I don't mind trusting other people and taking a shot on him in some of these. The other problem with taking Juan Dell is I do not want to have too many rookies. I don't mind having 6 or 7 in these, but I don't want 10. And some of the later Jalen Tolbert and Christian Watson are kind of similar bets to Juan Dell. So kind of wouldn't mind leaving a spot open for them and just getting a vet to fill this spot. MVS is a free agent. I think he'll probably find another team. Really like Dan Arnold as a pick. Doug Peterson offense is used tight end a lot, and Dan Arnold is pretty talented. Last year, if you remember, he was a guy I was on in round 18 that sort of hit, didn't really hit. Didn't do well enough to actually help you, but that's because he got hurt. And he was looking like he was going to be kind of a last round gem for a bit. This guy I think we were right on, but him and Tony were guys that I felt like I was right on last year, but it didn't really pan out anyway. Take Beasley. Pretty stoked at this wide receiver group. So we could end up with 10 wide receivers and 6 running backs in this one. Is that right? So 4 more picks to go. So yeah, we could end up with 2 more of each. Guess we could just kind of like gander over at the other positions to see if anything like crazy is sticking out. Saw Malik Willis went off the board, so like that'd basically be the only quarterback out of these guys where I think I would be like, ooh, maybe we'll take an extra shot on Malik Willis. Gronk is a little interesting because I don't think Gronk's gonna necessarily be guaranteed to retire. I think that it's pretty up in the air. He mentioned wanting to play for the Bengals. He had like a pretty good year. So like, I mean, he might be as good as some of these wide receivers if you're looking for like a guy just to kind of sneak into your flex on certain weeks. Juan Dell, no. We got RB. Zamir White's just a prospect I don't like, but like if you like him, this is like it's fine enough range. Dearness Johnson's a little interesting. Like if it just ends up him and Chubb, and Cleveland doesn't add somebody who's got a shot to be pretty good. So yeah, again, we're taking so many shots on the rookies down here because like there's some guys here that could really fly up the boards. Like if Tyler Algier were to test the way I think he's going to test. Lazard's a restricted free agent. I think I'm going to take a shot on him. Actually, let's take some of Michelle. I was pretty happy with how like when Michelle got his chance, he like did really well this season. So I think he'll get an opportunity. So we're basically down to one running back slot left, and got tons of pretty good options here. Oh no. That was strange. I never had that happen before. Our draft just crashed. But looks like we got it back already, so that's good. Oof, Carson Wentz. Colts pretty much today just came out and said they're moving on from Carson Wentz and he will be cut if they cannot find a trade. A couple, I don't know, at the end of the season, after I watched the last episode of Hard Knocks, I went into my group chat in my one of my fantasy leagues, and I was like, man, I wonder if they could maybe move on from Carson Wentz at the end of the year. And people basically were just like, you are an insane person. That never happened. And then here we are. I do not feel like an insane person anymore. Justin Ross was like such a beast to start his college career, and kind of like things fell apart with him due to injury. I have not taken any Justin Ross yet in these drafts. I think he's a reasonable bet. I wonder if Braxton Berrios could wind up somewhere else. Don't really want Brian Edwards, but I guess I'll stick him in there. I wonder if Berrios could end up somewhere else if the Jets were to add another outside guy. Therefore, pushing Elijah Mitchell. Or Elijah Moore, sorry. God, bothers me when other people do that too. Kind of wonder if Berrios could end up on a different team if Elijah Moore were to end up in the slot for the Jets. Juwan Jennings showed some like pretty decent touchdown upside this year. I think he probably earned himself a bit more of a role. As far as these RBs, the one I'm leaning towards the most are Algier and Dearness Johnson. Like I said, that I could see Algier just jumping so high because so many analysts are high on him. So like, if he were to end up on like Atlanta or something in round 4 after they missed on the top 3 guys, kind of like Michael Carter ended up on the Jets when they missed out on Javonte and Najee and Etienne last year. I could see Algier jumping all the way to like around 9, 10. I mean, maybe even higher than that pick because he would just get so much steam. We got Johnson that could end up in that role. So this is kind of the crux of why I'm taking so many rookies in these things. So when you're comparing Johnson to Algier, other than somehow Nick Chubb getting hurt between now and the NFL draft, Dearness Johnson's going to be sitting in here in round 16, 17, 18 for you all summer long. Whereas Tyler Algier may never, ever see the light of round 16 again after the NFL draft. So for that reason, I would lean towards taking the rookie. I have quite a few shares of Pierce and Ford and Algier. A little bit less of Haskins because Haskins is really more of only a two down type of guy. So yeah, I'm just going to take Algier here. We'll be done with running back. Take a couple more wide receivers. We can kind of poke our nose over a tight end if we want to. Is anything super interests me? I'm kind of starting to get a little excited about Harrison Bryant. He kind of sucked last year, but he had a streak near the end of the year with 3 straight games with a touchdown. And I don't really like using Austin Hooper much in the red zone. And Njoku's probably going to go to a different team because, at one point he was demanding to be traded from the Browns. So I do think Hunter Bryant is a guy with decent upside. I do kind of like all 5 of these wide receivers that are still in our queue a good amount. So I think OJ Howard's a little interesting because Gronk is obviously going to be gone, right? Problem with OJ Howard is that this year when Gronk didn't play, he was worthless. And that was with Tom Brady, who isn't shy to use his tight end. So Albert O is definitely interesting. I could see him getting traded this year in some sort of deal where Denver's trying to acquire a quarterback, and if he was the starting running back or a starting tight end on the team, I would definitely be down with some Albert O. I've actually picked up a couple shares in Dynasty of them. Pretty cheap though. I'm not going and paying anything significant, but I've been getting them thrown into deals where people are trying to buy stuff from me. So I think I'll either take Juwan Jennings or Slayton here. Go Jennings. Definitely impressed me at the end of the year last year. He didn't really get an opportunity until then. I think of these players, I'd like Slayton the most, then Watson. Kind of looking at our profile over here, we could probably go for the higher risk Watson, since this is going to be a 10 wide receiver team, but I also think that there's very good chance that Watson's off the board when we pick. People are starting to know his name a little more. Shakir is another wide receiver that's a rookie that I've heard some good things about. I really don't know too much about it myself, but someone other people are interested in. I think I'm done with Paris Campbell. Definitely done with AJ Green and Emmanuel Sanders. Eskridge is a little interesting if Russ stays, but I do kind of expect Russ will stay. Murray Rogers is a guy I haven't taken a shot yet on, and he could be the only dude other than Devontae coming back. I guess Lazard's almost a lock too because he's a restricted free agent, right? And who's gonna go crazy paying Alan Lazard? No one. So I think you're pretty much locked into Adams, Lazard, and Amari Rogers, but then they don't really have anyone else under contract. So I wouldn't hate taking a shot on Rogers. I actually kind of like Darius Slayton. I think he's a pretty good player. He's got close to elite speed. Dable loved going downfield. I don't believe in Kenny Galladay much, although I think at like how cheap he is now in these drafts, like it's tough. You kind of got to take a chance on him because he does have 10 touchdown upside. And Galladay was used in Detroit downfield a lot and excelled doing that. So I do think he could be sparked a bit by this new Giants offense, but in the last round, I just kind of love Darius Slayton right now. It just seems like people do not want him at all. Back-to-back 700-yard seasons. He has shown some touchdown upside. The guys in front of him are Galladay and Toney, who are both injury-prone. They both appear to be very injury-prone. Galladay, I question whether he really even gives a shit about football. I mean, this dude was into doing TikTok and dancing when he was supposed to be out with his busted hip. And I don't even think the Giants are that high on Toney. It sounds like they're kind of floating him in trades. I think it has more to do with his off the field and his attitude than his talent, that's for sure. Because Toney is definitely very talented. But Darius Slayton, probably one of my favorite guys to take in round 20 right now. So I think we'll take him, or we'll probably take a shot on Shakir if he goes, since we're a little rookie light. I'd rather just take a shot on a guy that I haven't seen fail than Amari Rodgers, who I haven't seen fail. So we'll take either Slayton or Shakir. We'll be done with this one. I haven't done a lot of drafts where I only drafted 2 quarterbacks and only drafted 2 tight ends, but I think it made sense in this one. So we ended up with Dak and Mac, Etienne, Walker, Spiller, Herbert, Michelle, Algier. I think this is a very high upside running back group, especially when you consider we didn't really have to use any crazy capital on them. Top end of our wide receivers obviously looks really good, although, if last year was Amari Cooper trying to fall off a cliff, then that's bad. But it's a little hard to see that when he's still not very old, right? So, I don't know. I'm betting against it being a start for him to slide off the cliff. We've got Ayuk, who was much better as the last year went on. We've got Dotson, who has a ton of upside. And then just a good mix down here of some dudes with some tight end upside, touchdown upside. And at tight end, we got Pitts and Hunter Henry. Well, that'll do it for that one. Thanks for watching, and good luck in your drafts.